So in today's video, I'm going to discuss why, in my opinion, the rental market has dropped and continues to drop as previously discussed in this video. But today's numbers are even more alarming in the sense that they've reached lows not seen since 2018, and also provide you the relevant stats, numbers, and graphs that I think will provide you with a better understanding of what's happening right now, along with my analysis as to why and what we can expect in the future. So let's get on with the video, shall we? As always, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Realtron Realty Inc. Contact information in the description box. Feel free to like this video and subscribe if you want. If you don't, that's perfectly fine by me. Let's get on with the video. So for a long time, I've been going on about how the condo market, both in the rental market and the purchase and sale market, is struggling. And the numbers we'll discuss today, it's not as if there's a new reason. It's just what I've been saying for a while is finally coming to fruition more and more in the rental market, and we will see it in the purchase and sale market as well in the coming months. So the reasons previously discussed that I will reiterate in this video is a couple, but primarily the Airbnb regulations and the fact that people no longer want to live in central locations, especially if it's in condominiums. Now, the Airbnb regulations, as you know, stated that short-term rentals have to be registered now, and only the primary residence can be used as a short-term rental for Airbnbs, meaning a lot of investors who bought condos to Airbnb them out can no longer Airbnb those as short-term rentals. Now they have to move on to the long-term rental market, causing an influx, causing a increase in inventory that is all happening at the same time. As a result, the demand does not match. So there's too much supply and not enough demand to match. And if these owners decide not to go into the long-term rental option, they can't leave it vacant because you might have a vacant home tax coming. So what they'll have to do is then sell it, causing the same concept to occur actually in the market, where once again there's an influx of inventory. Not a lot of people want to buy downtown. And similarly with the lease market, there's not enough demand to match the inventory in the sale market for condos, causing prices to drop once more. Let's go through the numbers, shall we? Just to be clear, this is a quarterly comparison, not a month to month, right? So we're taking into account the third quarter of this year. And in this quarter, the third quarter of 2020 compared to the third quarter of 2019, we have seen a 9% decrease, wherein the average price of the market rent for a condominium is $2,249. Now, just to clarify, this is across all condo types, right? So it's going to be 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 1-bedroom. The average of all condo types by price is $2,249. Even though the prices have been dropping, the number of transactions and listings have gone up, which makes perfect sense, right? Because if you have more inventory, even if there is not enough demand to match it, you're naturally still going to have more transactions. Compared to previous years where the market was more balanced, maybe you had less inventory but more demand, wherein the gap between inventory and demand was less. And actually there's a good graph that I'm going to use that Urban Nation released to explain this concept. But before we get into it, let me give you the figures. So total lease transactions, right? Not listings and not the price, transaction, the number of times where keys were exchanged between landlords and tenants, right? Was about 13,410, which represents a 39% increase from previous quarters. And similarly, for the number of listings, that was a large increase as well. We saw 23,000 listings for rent with condominiums exclusively, right, which is higher than any number of listings in the previous quarters, and we're about to get to this graph. As you can see from this graph, it shows the third quarter of each year from 2015 to this year. It represents total lease transactions. The gray represents the number of listings available on the market, and you see that through line, right, that curve is active listings, means the carry over into the next quarter or the next year. So just comparing the third quarter of 2020 to the quarter of 2019, the third quarter of 2019, you see there's 23,000 listings compared to about 12,000 listings last third quarter. So if you're seeing 13,000 transactions in the third quarter, right, and you're wondering, well, why is this bad for the condo market? Because there's more transactions than ever. Shouldn't the prices be higher? Well, no, because look at that gap. This is what I previously stated. The gap, put differently, the differential, relative differential between the number of transactions and the number of listings is far, far higher and supersedes any other quarter or any other third quarter of the last couple of years. So it doesn't matter that the number of transactions is 13,000 and the best number of transactions next to 13,000 was potentially, as I'm looking at the graph here, as I'm talking, maybe we can say the third quarter of 2019 with 9,000 transactions. It doesn't matter because in the third quarter of 2019, even though if it's only 9,000 transactions, that was relative to 10,000 listings. In this quarter, we're talking about 13,000 transactions relative to 23,000 listings. A differential of 10,000, right, that stayed on the market, inventory that did not move, whereas previous quarters or previous third quarters were a differential of 1,000 at most. The gap is a perfect visual illustration of why the prices are falling. Too much supply in inventory and not enough demand to match. And I can speak on it from my own business, right? Because right now I do have a condo for rent. It's not downtown, but it's in Richmond Hill, right? And this condo for rent of mine, we luckily were able to find a tenant soon, but I think that was just a case-by-case basis. I think, not to toot my own horn, but we did a good job, or maybe I got lucky, whatever it is. My listing for rent, which only stayed on the market for a couple of days, is the exception, not the rule. If you want to attribute it to my skills or my luck, whatever you can want to attribute it to, that is the exception, not the rule. The rule is, and I think will continue to be, that there will be too many listings and not enough demand. Believe it or not, I believe the upcoming rent freeze will actually help landlords, and I will explain in a separate video as to why I think that is. But quickly put right now, the rent freeze will put a halt on landlords being able to increase rent on incumbent tenants, result incentivizing them to stay at the same price, maybe even a discounted price if the landlord feels generous, causing less inventory to go onto the market, which in turn, if there's too much inventory, right, is bad for landlords at the end of the day. So it will put a freeze on things. Actually, it won't just put a freeze on the rent price, it'll put a freeze on the turnover rates of listings, how many new listings are coming onto the market, causing the market to balance itself out a bit. Just a hypothesis, and I can make a future video about it any day. So thanks for watching. Hopefully these numbers were illuminating. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to ask in the comment section. My contact info in the description. Let's get in touch. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and comment, subscribe, and review. Thanks.